Hello everyone, it's Channin here for Pinkfresh Studio. Today we're going to take our stenciled patterns up a level and we're going to add texture. In this video I'm focusing on splatters, but there's tons of different ways you can add texture with these layering stencils, and it really stretches the product and gives these backgrounds a new look. We're going to start with the overlapping Geo Leaf hot foil plate, and I'm going to foil with some matte silver glimmer foil. But first I'm going to create a sandwich with the plate, my paper, and the foil. I've cut the matte silver foil down to a sheet that's a little bit bigger than an A2 panel. I'm going to place it down, shiny side down, onto the plate, and then grab my A2 panel of white cardstock, place it over the foil, and then tape the foil around the cardstock. Once I get the foil taped, I'll then center the hot foil plate over the panel, and then when I get it centered, I'll then grab two pieces of tape to just tape the plate to the paper, which is sandwiching the foil inside. Now I'm going to take my little sandwich here and place it onto my warmed up glimmer machine. Once the timer is done blinking, we're ready to actually run it through. So I'm going to construct my sandwich, or the final steps of my sandwich, which is the shim and then the last plate, and then I will detach it and run it through my Spellbinders Platinum. Once I run it through here, I will open this up, and I'll have to move this over to the cooling place and let it cool before I can remove it. Now that it is cooled, I'll remove the tape, and then you'll see we have this really nice foiled panel with the pattern actually centered on the panel. Now we will die cut this out, but this does make sure I save some of my paper. I'm not being so wasteful with my paper by starting with a really big piece and then cutting it down. So now I'm going to move on to the stencils. I have stencil 1 here. I'm going to line it up with the foiled pattern, use a couple pieces of tape to hold the stencil in place, and then I'm going to start with Summer Shower. I'm just going to quickly ink blend all the openings in this stencil, just a nice flat blend, not trying to do any gradations or anything here. After I've ink blended all the openings, I'm then going to press the pad onto a laminated piece of paper, spray a little bit of water over the ink, and then mix the ink and the water together to kind of create this liquidy ink. And then I'll just load my brush up, tap my finger on the brush to release a fine splatter over all the openings in the stencil, and that will leave this really awesome splattered texture over those openings, or over that leaf pattern. Now moving on to stencil number 2, which I've already lined up with the pattern. I'm going to ink blend first all the openings with Sparkling Rose, just a nice flat blend, no gradations or anything. Once I finish ink blending with the rose, I'll then press it onto my laminated piece of cardstock, mix some water with the ink, and again, just like before, load my brush up and then tap my finger on the brush to release a fine splatter over all the openings. And again, I'll hold it to the camera so you can see it has this really fun texture, very playful, and I think perfect for this card, which is leaning towards kind of a birthday card. So now I've lined up stencil number 3, and we're going to ink blend the openings with Passion Fruit, a beautiful red, but keep it nice and flat and light. I'll then press the ink pad to my laminated sheet, mix with water, and then splatter all of the openings with that watered down Passion Fruit. And once we finish that, we only have one more color to introduce, which is Apricot here. We're on stencil number 4, and just like with the other stencils and colors, I'm just going to first ink blend all the openings with the ink. Then I'll press the ink pad onto my laminated sheet of paper, mix in some water, and then just splatter over the front of this panel. And once I finish with that, we're almost done with our design. We actually could stop here, but there's one last stencil in this set. This is stencil number 5, and I'm going to ink blend the openings with all the colors that I used previously. So they're the same inks that I used for stencil 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I've on the side here pressed the ink to the to my laminated piece of paper, added water to water it down, and now I'm just splattering in the openings with the matching watered down ink to just add some splatters just to keep everything consistent, and that will complete that background. Now we're going to move on to kind of bringing things together. I'm going to first die cut my panel with the overlapping Geo Leaf die. I'm doing this just because I want to change the background. I want to have the background a nice light blue. So I went ahead and die cut it, and then I'm going to pop out the panel, and we're left with this beautiful, almost kind of quilted look. I love the way this looks, and we're also going to pop that up with foam adhesive to add some dimension as well. Moving on to the sentiment now, I have the Jeff Alpha dies. I die cut out both layers for the word yay. Now I'm going to adhere the outline layer to the shadow layer, and I used foam adhesive to do that so they have a little bit of dimension as well, and that will complete our main sentiment. And now we're going to make a sub-sentiment with the Dreamy Florals stamp set. I'm going to stamp this in Versamark embossing watermark ink onto some gray cardstock, dipped it into some white embossing powder, and then I heat set with my heat tool. Off camera, I trimmed it down with a craft knife and a ruler, added some foam adhesive, and now we're ready to kind of bring this all together. I'm going to start by adding some liquid glue to the backside of an A2 panel of light blue cardstock. This is going to be, again, that background that I talked about that will, I think, help our blended background stand out even more. I've also added some foam adhesive to the backside of our blended background, and once I remove the backing of all the little foam adhesive squares, I'll then center it and place it on my card front. Once I get that stuck down, we are ready to finish this card up with our sentiments. I'm going to start with yay and add my liquid adhesive to the back, starting with the A, which is a handy trick. If you have a uneven letters in your word, you can start with the center letter, and that will really help for you to get the center placement of that word. And then I just removed the backing on my sub-sentiment, stuck it down, and that will actually complete my card. And I'll hold it to the camera so you can get a good look at all the details in this card. I love that splattered background. Kind of reminds me of Sprinkles, which I again think is pretty good for this card because it has kind of a birthday feel. And this is just a nice way to add some texture to your blended backgrounds. It's very simple to do, and it will definitely give you a new look. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you have any questions about the products I used, please check out the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.